Welcome to the Chase Down Podcast, part of the Cavs media family. I'm your host, Justin Rowan. The Chase Down is presented by Fubo, the official streaming partner of the Cavs. Watch over 350 channels of live sports and TV, including FanDuel Sports Network without cable. There's no cost and no commitment. Try for free at FuboTV.com/Cavs. The Cleveland Cavaliers kicked off the home stretch of the season with a dominant win over the Brooklyn Nets. It was a thorough team beatdown of the Nets, as it should be. Obviously, this was the expectation, but boy, was it fun to see the boys back. And speaking of the boys being back in town, Carter Rodriguez, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. I thought you were about to open it by saying they kicked ass, not kicked off, and they did both things. That was the kind of game you want to see after 8 games of no Cavalier basketball. All-Star game notwithstanding, just a thorough butt kicking from start to finish. I guess the fourth quarter notwithstanding, where the offense went a little quiet as the deep bench came in, but you really got to see everything. And I think I'd like just to start with James Harden, who was just phenomenal in this game. His first game with Evan Mobley on the floor. I had some questions about how the two big thing would work with him. He really hadn't played alongside two bigs in a long time. I think someone pointed out it was really probably the Thunder was the last time he played next to two more traditional bigs, at least in a starting unit. And boy, did it seem easy for him. 9 assists to 2 turnovers in his 28 minutes. Hits his first 5 shots from the field. You expected the pick and roll mastery to be there, and it was, but it was just an entry pass master class from James Harden tonight.
Yeah, it really was. It almost was a little less pick and roll heavy than some of those pre-All-Star break games that we saw from him. And even that first possession, right? It's okay, we're going to have Mobley out on the wing here. We kick it out to him. Mobley throws an entry pass into Harden-Wade-Allen, who established deep entry position. Like, I thought that the spacing and the positioning for the Cavs was very similar to what we saw in the past with, Darius in that spot, right? Like, I didn't think it didn't feel like a dramatically different offense, only that, the passes and the decision making that James Harden had were just at another level, right? As you said, the entry passes were fantastic. I think the one thing that you notice right away that is a difference with Harden in that spot is the amount of on-ball gravity that he has. Obviously, some of this is the Brooklyn Nets, who are a very poor defensive team, and they're without Nick Claxton, so that's going to make them even more poor on the defensive end of the floor. But they're sending 2 to the ball routinely with Harden, right? Like they're blitzing him. And one of the advantages of him being a 6'5" guard with a massive wingspan and an unconventional left-hand release is he can see over those defenders as they come. And just the awareness, the confidence to make those pinpoint passes, I think is something that just really stands out. Like Darius would have on-ball gravity, but it wasn't to this extent. And
it was only after he kind of demanded it.
Right. He would have to kind of get hot to start the game in order to get that kind of that level of the offense into gear. Whereas Harden, that respect is automatic, right? And I just thought that, watching him out there, it just struck me of how efficient he can be with his movement, right? Like he wasn't dominant on the ball. The time of possession when he had the ball was probably one of the lower amounts that you've seen in a good Harden game, throughout his career. He was just letting the offense run. Sometimes Mobley would bring up the ball. Sometimes it would be Donovan. They'd headman. It was kind of equal opportunity in transition. And he was just perfectly comfortable. All right, I'm going to spot up. If an open shot comes to me, I'm taking an open shot. And he hit almost all of them to start. He attacked the closeouts and just kind of got to waltz to the lane. He probably hasn't had to expend this little energy to score this efficiently, maybe ever, or at least in a very, very long time. And I do think that is going to boost some of the overall kind of efficiency numbers, or at least like that effective field goal percentage with the Cavs. Like I really think that he's being put in position to succeed here.
Yeah, and he's just kind of letting the game come to him, and he is doing something that I really appreciate, which he's just consistently rewarding the Cavs bigs for running the floor. Like he found Mobley. I think he was the one who found Mobley in transition. Might have been Mitchell to start the game. But both Mobley and Allen in this game did a phenomenal job of just beating up a mostly small, mostly young Brooklyn Nets team and just beating them down the floor and just fighting for deep post position. And, James threw some, again, I cannot reiterate enough because you always say, like, oh, the entry pass is dead in the modern NBA. Like, not for that guy. Like, no. I mean, he's throwing 28-foot bounce passes to Jared Allen's like knees, like on his left offhand away, shielding the pass from the defender. Like, it was just like some gorgeous stuff. And you're gonna get to the line. Jared had 10 free throw attempts in this game. His stat line would have looked a lot better if he didn't miss half of them, because he was phenomenal in kind of demanding the ball. Evan, same thing, got deep post position quite a few times. And, this is a team that sometimes in the past has forgotten to feed their bigs. There's just no way around it. And it just doesn't seem like that's something James is going to do much.
Yeah. And to that effect, with Allen having such a great first half, like I thought his aggressiveness was fantastic. I thought defensively he was terrific as well. It is worth noting that he did just have one field goal attempt in the second half. Now, obviously didn't play the fourth quarter, just didn't get as many touches in the third quarter. And I think it's worth bringing up, not as something to be concerned about, but even when we were reflecting back on last season, we said, there were little things like this that would pop up when the Cavs were winning by so much, and they didn't make it into the post-game podcast, right? Because it's like, how do you talk about Sam not having a great shooting night when the Cavs win by 30, or Allen only getting the one field goal attempt? It's at least something that I'm kind of keeping my eye on, because continuing to find ways to make sure that they're involved, I think, is really important. But I think, again, when you're winning by this much, sometimes things just get a little funky, right? Like you're
yeah, I mean, they still scored 32 points in the quarter, right. So things were working just fine. Down.
Yeah. So,
and I felt like you saw a lot of Evan in that quarter. You saw Dennis get a few cracks. You saw Jalen make a few really nice plays in the third. Yeah. So ultimately, I do want to shout out Jarrett, who played an awesome game. But in my excitement to talk about James and his really cool game, as we're starting to learn what kind of player he is, we had two big returns. Dean and Evan returned. What did you think? What did you see?
I thought Evan looked explosive, right?
Yep.
Like, this is probably really nice timing for that All-Star break to hit, because he's coming back basically 3.5 weeks after his last game that he played.
Felt like a fast 3.5 weeks. Maybe winning tends to speed up the calendar.
Winning definitely speeds up the calendar, although this last week was long. But that was a 1 to 3 week timeline, so he got to get a little bit extra time, and hopefully that's going to kind of do the trick in terms of keeping him healthy. Obviously,
it seemed like he was on a pitch count tonight, though, because he only played like 9 minutes in the first half, I want to say.
Yeah, and 9 in the second half as well, which Kenny did say post game that he is on a minutes restriction. 10 points, 9 rebounds in 18 minutes. Like that is terrific production. I actually noticed his aggressiveness on the defensive glass. Like, I thought that he really went up and snatched a couple boards, which looked good to see. I think sometimes when you don't necessarily have your lower body at 100%, you don't look as forceful in those situations. So I really like that. Thought decision making was strong from him. I thought defensively he looked like Evan Mobley. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with tomorrow being a back-to-back. I wouldn't be surprised if he plays. I wouldn't be surprised to see them be conservative, but with only playing 18
especially
minutes
with no Diabate and maybe no Bridges. Yeah, no Bridges either. a lot of Charlotte's size is not going to be a part of that game.
Yeah. So, but with him only playing 18 minutes, I could see it going both ways, right? Because you want to get his conditioning up, but also understanding that, hey, the Cavs coming out of the break are going to play 5 games in 7 days, right? Like you're going to have to pace yourself to some extent, and I'm sure that was part of the process when it came to the minute restriction. I'll get to Dean in a second. There is one more thing I want to add when it comes to Harden's passing because I'm just so geeked about it. Before we move it off it entirely. One, the lob to Mitchell was insane.
Ridiculous.
Just that level of confidence with one another this early on for Donovan to go up and get it like that was such a fun play. Shout out to our buddy Jimmy Longo Jr. who took a fantastic picture of that one. And then there was another pass. You talked about the entry passes to the bigs. There was a brilliant little lob pass to Jalen Tyson.
I know. I couldn't believe he made that pass.
That the ball placement on that pass was brilliant, and Tyson's finish was not easy, right? Like I think 8 out of 10 times a player comes down with that pass and maybe kicks it out to someone else because that's one of those passes where the defenders are blitzing Harden. Being able to break that blitz and get a perfect pass to Jalen Tyson means that the defense is going to collapse further and it's going to rotate. Typically, the end result there is Jalen Tyson kicking it out to an open shooter or the making the pass that leads to the pass that generates the assist. Jalen hitting that floater, fading to his left, perfect touch off of the glass, like. That is night and day different from what we saw at the start of the season where, he seemed to be second guessing what he's going to do at the rim in the paint, how he's going to attack the basket, like just insane level of maturity, insane level of chemistry already. Harden seems to be anticipating him slipping those screens all the time. It is just really, really fun to watch. I couldn't believe he
tried it, It's like one of those passes where I'm like,
that guy's fearless.
That's a ridiculous angle to try to squeeze.
Yeah.
It's but like when you see a quarterback like drop it in the breadbasket, like as the safety's crashing down, like it's just gorgeous.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal pass. So I just want to highlight those two. As you mentioned, there was another return with Dean Wade returning to the lineup and returning to the starting 5. Something that we were wondering if that was an option on the last podcast, right? And Kenny did say after the game is that basically the plan is for Dean to be the starting 5 on this team, at least for the foreseeable future. What was your reaction to that?
I'm still not sure I agree with it. I made the case that I thought it should be Tyson on our very last podcast in that starting spot, and I'm not so flimsy in my convictions that I would change my mind after one game. Yeah. Dean obviously was excellent in this game.
You're terrible company, man. You're supposed to flip flop. You're supposed to go with what was done.
A great game for Dean. Hit all 3 of his threes. Even took some semi-contested ones, which is important for him. Was good on the boards. Was good on Michael Porter Jr. It's a very good matchup. For him going up against MPJ, who that's kind of the superpower of Porter at the small forward is that he gets to just shoot over guys, not Dean Wade. So definitely thought he was phenomenal. I think my concern, and I think we kind of saw it in practice with this, is if you want to do kind of a 3-man sub, which is what they did. They brought in Merrill, Tyson, and Schroder.
Yeah.
Is one, it means Tyson is not going to share his minutes with Donovan, where he's been the best this year, because Donovan's typically the first sub out. And if you're taking Dean and Evan off at the same time, now you're playing very, very small. You're immediately going to, just one big on the floor.
With Jalen Tyson at power forward.
And that's just a little smaller than I'm comfy with. It's hard to argue with any results from this game. I'll be interested to see how that feels in more high leverage games. A small thing that I'm keeping an eye on as well, if we're like tracking some like minor angsts in a in a otherwise very, very fun game is, I think, both I talked to Danny Cunningham about this. I think we talked about it a little bit, how we kind of feel like Dennis Schroder is probably best paired with Donovan, because both he and James are a little bit more on ball kind of guys. And I just don't love the fit because Dennis also just isn't an elite shooter.
Right.
And if you are going to have Schroeder be in the first group of subs and Donovan's going to be in the first group of subs coming off, you are inherently going to pair them up. Now, you could see, you're watching Kenny play in real time, by the way, because I think it was like by the 3 or 4 minute mark of the first quarter, Donovan was back in and James was sitting. So,
Yeah.
I do think we have to give them some time to work this out and figure out exactly how he wants the rotation to shake. But that did jump out at me as noteworthy watching the first quarter.
One thing I'll add to that is, at least earlier in the season, like think back to when Darius first returned to the lineup and we actually did have some time with the four together. We were wondering, okay, are we going back to the same pairings as the last season, where it was Darius and Jarrett and then Don with Mobley? It was not as rigid as it had been the year prior, right? Like Darius was kind of splitting his single guard minutes with Allen and Mobley, and Donovan was getting a bit mix of time with both. I don't think that the pairings are going to be as rigid. That's kind of my anticipation. And what I like about that, at least when it comes to a preparing for the playoff standpoint, is when you have very rigid groups, when the starters aren't out there together. If someone's in foul trouble, if someone's hurt and not able to contribute in the same way, you don't have the same chemistry with the other guys that are kind of coming in to fill out the rest of that lineup. So I am curious to see how Kenny works that in real time, because I agree with you. I think some of it is experimenting. I think some of it is at least a change that was signaled earlier in the season. So it's going to take some time for us to determine what is what when it comes to that. For the most part, I agree with a lot of what you had to say. Obviously, one of the advantages of having Jalen come off the bench is he does get a little bit more usage, right? Like in this game, only go ahead.
I had an idea of a thought, but I want you to finish your thought, then I'll jump in.
I was going to say only 2 players got 10 field goal attempts, double-digit field goal attempts in this game, and Jalen Tyson was one, right? Like it was him and Donovan. So there was no shortage of usage there. I will say, because everything, I don't think the Cavs can really go to a lineup that doesn't work, right? Like as long as the main guys, when this team's healthy, they got 10 guys that in any combination are probably going to be very good in the regular season, no matter what. Yeah. One of my concerns with Dean as the starting small forward, beyond kind of the rotational stuff of, hey, I want him to be the third big and all those sorts of things, which you can still accomplish with creative staggering, and obviously Mobley on a minutes restriction makes things weirder. But one of my concerns is if you're going 2 bigs, Dean just has less gravity, right? Like this was something we talked about last year when you look at the tracking data for off-ball gravity when it comes to Dean Wade. He's in the 42nd percentile this year. Last year, as a frame of reference, Isaac Okoro was in the 47th percentile, while Dean was in the 38th. Like he was ignored off ball more than just about any wing player in the NBA or player playing on the perimeter. Because you have to remember when it's 42nd or 38th percentile here, that's including big men, right?
Yeah.
So you got to keep that into consideration. So there just isn't that same amount of off ball gravity. Whereas Jalen Tyson's in the 93rd percentile in terms of how defenders are guarding him. Like they are staying close to him.
I'm surprised that's that high.
I'm surprised too, but at the same time, he's shooting 47%.
Yeah, I get it. But
he's taking a lot of contested threes. Like that ball swings to him and that hand is already in his face, but he's just not afraid to shoot it. So that would be kind of one of my concerns, in addition to everything that we've stated, right? Having him as a third big, historically, his numbers always being better at power forward and the team's numbers being better when he's at power forward. But again, I don't want to make too much out of starting because it really, it doesn't mean a whole lot in the grand scheme of things.
For sure. The thing I wanted to jump in and say, it's a little off topic, but it's still rotation adjacent. Something that I really hadn't considered about if you have Tyson come off the bench. I do wonder if you're in a series where catch and shoot matters more, or you want to value size a little more. If you're bringing Jalen off the bench, it does allow you to choose Keon Ellis over Dennis Schroder a little easier because you've got that extra playmaking, that extra creation with Jalen in some of those bench lineups that he has shown. So that was the only other thing I wanted to throw out there of like, well, there's another plus to like a Jalen bench unit is like you do have a little bit more flexibility, whereas like if you don't have Tyson out there and you have Dean in Tyson's spot in some of those bench lineups, it is a little bit more like, well, we kind of need Dennis out there because we need someone who to pair with, James or Donovan that's going to get downhill, that can create for others. Like Jalen can kind of bridge that gap a little bit and give you a different look.
Yeah, it is important to have more options to keep everybody in rhythm and in sync. And because we know teams move fastest when everyone's in sync. Zoom Workplace keeps meetings, chats, documents, and more together so your work flows like a perfect play. Keep work moving and zoom ahead with Zoom Workplace. I'm going to continue to say, I would prefer for Jalen to be the starting option. Obviously, some of what we saw with the rotation tonight is because Mobley's on a minutes restriction, right? When Evan Mobley's playing 18 minutes rather than 34, there's going to be a lot of trickle down effects. That means you are going to see a little bit of Dean Wade at the 5, particularly on a night where Kenny was giving Thomas Bryant a night off. I expect to see him against the Hornets. You're a little more downsized. You get Craig Porter Jr. playing regular minutes kind of within the rotation. I don't expect that to be the case when Mobley's taking on a full minute load, right? Like I think that was kind of one of those small ball necessities against a very small team. I don't expect Craig to be in the normal rotation. But as I said, if you're making your first substitution 4 minutes in, I think hyper indexing on those first 4 minutes when there's going to be a lot of substitutions, there's going to be a lot of mixing and matching of the rotation, and we know that it is a good lineup, like it's not something that's a concern. Maybe we're putting too much focus on it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. By the way, did you know hyper-indexing isn't a real word or thing? I just started saying it, and now you've started saying it.
Really?
Yeah.
You just kind of inception that.
Someone made fun of me for saying it a lot, and it's not a real thing. And I was like, it's definitely a real thing. I looked it up. It is not.
Would you look at that?
And now I've ruined you. I take some quiet joy in that.
There are results when I look up hyper-index, and hyper-indexing. It's probably not the way that we use it, but all right.
Almost certainly not. A little bit
of to know that you've made me look dumber, and I misspeak, I misspoke, I mistalk often enough on my own. I don't need you feeding me words like that, because especially you're always introducing these big words and your $5 words. I don't need you mixing fake ones in where I have to guess.
I like mixing a little fool's gold with my $5 words,
right. just
I'm a counterfeiter, baby. I'm a fraud.
Meanwhile, I'm a parrot. I'm a parrot that adds extra U's in because I'm Canadian.
But God bless you, buddy. One last thing. I pulled up playbyplaystats.com. Great website, by the way. Found it from the Dunker Spot crew. Starting lineup played 9 minutes and 13 seconds, 38 possessions, Justin. They were a plus 19 in those 9 minutes. 31-12 was the Donovan, James, Dean, Jarrett, Evan minutes. That'll do.
That'll do. And honestly, that's in line with what we said before, right? Like the Dean Wade with Donovan, Mobley, and Allen lineup for the season is plus 19. Same goes with the Jalen one, right? Like we are picking between very good options. We have an embarrassment of riches here. But if you were going to sway me, if you wanted to continue to put a little something in my ear to convince me that this is a way to go, you saying more opportunities to get Keon Ellis minutes is, that's tugging at my heartstrings a little bit because I just enjoyed how that guy plays basketball.
Man, he had a couple crazy blocks in this game that are
He had a couple
just
crazy blocks, and he had like that Okoro versus the Rockets dunk where he just decided, all right, I'm dribbling in and going up and dunking over the team like that. That was absurd that he got up there with two hands. He had that out of bounds play where he just threw it off.
Yeah, he blocked the shot and then threw it off the opposing player on the way down.
It's the second leap, right? Like that's when you see these really natural athletes, it's the ability to go up that second and third time, right? Like you don't expend all of your energy on your hyper athletic jump to block the shot. It's, oh yeah, no, this is how I move. Really, really fun player. It's amazing how forceful he can be as a player, given how slight he is. Like he sometimes, like I just look at it and I'm like, this is almost like Amani Bates in terms of just very, very lean, stringy player, but completely different levels of athleticism.
Yeah, you get how he kind of slipped down draft boards. Like normally that kind of frame is a bit of a red alert, that you're going to get beat up, and he is really an interesting player. You can definitely see the limitations on offense with him as we get to know him a little bit better. Like he does not want to do something in the middle of the floor generally. Like
no,
he's gonna just dribble into a pass more often than not, unless he gets a nice runway for the dunk that he had. But even on a night where he didn't shoot particularly well, he went 1 of 4 from 3. Like you did see the vision with him posted up in the corner, where it's a swing to Max, a hell pass to come, and Max just finds Keon for a really easy corner 3. So I think you're seeing nice flash plays for him. I think, he's really an interesting guy. We've talked about it a little bit already, but like figuring out exactly where he's supposed to fit in this rotation, even before Max comes back, is a bit tricky. He's not in that first group of subs right now. And I also have no clue where Naquan Tomlin fits into any of this either, by the way. Who has
probably
been so
not.
probably not, but he's been so phenomenal. It's weird to assume he's not. But yeah, I'm interested to see kind of where Keon ends up shaking out. Obviously, like Craig plays first half minutes. I don't think he'll play that by the time the season's ending if the team's healthy. It does feel like a real Dennis versus Keon thing right now, though, in terms of in terms of who's going to get the minutes. And, I'm not surprised to see Kenny leaning on Dennis, or at least early on in the tenure.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a little similar to last year, how Sam was that first guy, but that didn't always guarantee that he was going to end up playing more minutes than Ty, or some nights it was Okoro, or some nights it was DeAndre, sometimes it was Karis LeVert earlier in the season, right? But Sam was kind of that first guy. I think that's how it's going to be with Dennis. I think you're going to bring him in to have that, kind of maintain that playmaking and bench ball handling when you go to the subs to start the game. But depending on how he's playing, depending on what the game calls for, you can go to any of those other options. So I'm with you. I kind of expect him to be that like 8th, 9th man when it comes to minutes per game. But I do think that there are going to be nights where just calls for more Keon Ellis, right? It's going to call for that kind of disruption, that aggressive mentality on the defensive end of the floor. And,
it kind of breaks my brain a little bit like that. Like they trade the 6th man on the team and DeAndre for Keon and Dennis. Keon is, like, by all reports, the prize of the trade, and the guy who had the most value. But then you kind of just remember that this is, that's not how coaches coach. Like, you don't go by the value chart on the trade value list. You have to, like, coach a coherent team. And, like, Kenny clearly, like, I want to have a point guard on the floor at all times. And right now that means
that's how it was with JR and Shump, right? Like Shump was the target of the trade, JR was the throw in, but it was like, hey, we kind of need this high volume shooting, right?
Yeah,
and
it's a great call out.
Like it sometimes that's just kind of how it goes. And I think Keon what made him attractive and why we were thrilled to have him, brought in is it's just a skill set that nobody brought.
Yeah.
Right. Like it like
There
having
was there was no break glass in case of emergency option to go be a guard, irritant, defender, chaos guy that had like the quick feet. Like,
right.
You had Dean, you had Dre, but like it's like I don't really love either of those guys as like the main Brunson guy in a series.
No, not on guards. No.
And now, and not that I thought that either would do a bad job. I just think I would expect Keon to do better.
Yeah, it's more likely with Keon that ball ends up going the other way and a field goal attempt doesn't even happen, right? Like I think it was filling a need that nobody else filled. But when everything is working, Kenny likes having connectors out there, right? Like, and I think Dennis is someone that's going to give you that that rim pressure, not protection. That would be wild if he gave you that. Keon will give you that every now and then, but he's going to give you that connective playmaking, and it's kind of like you don't need a lifeboat until you need it. But it's very important that we have one on the ship. And in a lot of ways, I kind of feel like that's what Keon is. It's, hey, we're going to need to have a player like this because there are going to be games and situations where it calls for more of them, right? So I do agree with you. Like I love that archetype of a player. But when things are rolling really well, Keon coming in, giving you, 16 to 18 minutes of really hard-nosed defense, some steals, some blocks, and being a very willing and capable shooter, I think that's a valuable part to have in the rotation.
Yeah, I totally agree. I did want to talk about Dennis a little bit because I just feel like we haven't really talked too much. He's been kind of hard for me to talk about because it's been about what I expect. Like, get downhill, take some tough middies every now and again. Get the offense moving, but certainly not be like a savant. What have been your impressions? Anything jump out at you about his game? Watching it up close.
I think what jumps out, like the first impressions of when you bring a player in, it's always what does this do to the overall feel of the lineup when they're out there, right? And like for Harden, that's one of the reasons why when I see him out there, I'm like, man, it doesn't feel disruptive. It doesn't feel like things are slowing down. It doesn't feel like the ball's stopping. When it comes to Dennis, it just feels like things pick up a little bit in tempo, right? Like I feel that acceleration when he's out there on the floor because he does make such quick decisions, right? Like even if it's just swinging the ball on the perimeter to make the extra pass, he is not going to hesitate. If that shot's going up, he's going to take that very quickly, right? And I think there are a lot of times where he even plays defense a little sped up, right? Like
I would agree with that.
He's going to take some risks. He's going to gamble. Sometimes it's not going to work out, but he's going to play kind of that higher variance style of basketball. So I feel the increase of tempo with him. As you mentioned, like in terms of offensive profile, I don't expect him to be hyper efficient. But I thought tonight was a really nice game. He pitched in on the glass as well. He got 3 assists. He got a steal, 12 points. Like I thought it was a very, very good, contribution from him off the bench.
While I don't typically love role players that love the mid-range, sometimes that can be a little bit scary and, can belie some frustrating decision-making. I think there have been times where the Cavaliers have been a little too, it's like we talked about with Ty a little bit last year, where it's like their role players have either been like, I get past the ball and I shoot it, or I get past the ball and I dunk it, or I have to reset. And like he hit a mid-ranger over Danny Wolf, maybe one of the Brooklyn bigs, might have been Clowney. I don't remember who. It was definitely over a big. And it was kind of a tough midi to take, and like he splashed it. And while you don't ever expect him to be crazy efficient on those, it's just nice to know that if you're in a jam, there's a shot it goes in. like that. Okay, he's comfortable taking that shot. And like, because sometimes in the playoffs you just don't get good shots, and on every possession. In fact, oftentimes you don't get good shots on every possession. So like having a little bit of shot making and a player who's comfortable and unafraid to take them, that shot jumped out to me like, oh, that's a nice thing to see go in.
Well, here's the important thing. That's the playoff shot, right? Like, and I think that's why Dennis, in a higher usage role, in a higher volume role on the international stage, like he is really important. He is, why they went out and won, right? Like hitting those mid-range shots. Sometimes that's all that's available in the postseason, right? Teams are going to try to take away your bread and butter. They're going to try to take away shots at the rim. They're going to try to run you off the line. Sometimes you need to hit those mid-range shots to keep a defense honest, and sometimes that's the best look you're going to get on a possession. Having a player that is willing and able to take those shots, I think that's an important thing to have in the mix, right? Because everything has to be viewed through the lens of making a deep playoff run, making an NBA Finals, and giving yourselves a puncher's chance at winning it. I think having someone that's disruptive can be a good or bad thing, but it's better than predictable. And I think sometimes the Cavs offense, when it comes to the postseason, for a variety of reasons, has kind of settled down into that predictable valley.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I had moving off Dennis, I did have a silly thought as I scanned the box score and checked to see if anything we missed.
Do you have any made up words that accompany your silly thought, or what are we doing?
No. Just we're shooting it straight this time.
Okay.
Sam Merrill plays 22 minutes, goes 1 of 4 from 3, 3 assists, 3 rebounds. I was thinking, beginning of the year, if Sam goes 1 of 4 from 3, we probably just weren't gonna score.
Yeah.
And it's kind of reflective of like being back to a healthier space where Jalen can score 11 on 10. Not crazy efficient. The team only makes 12 threes. They only get 35 up. They don't shoot that well from the line, and they, other than the fourth quarter where they were just kind of like playing out the string, like they were getting a bucket anytime they wanted. And it is reflective to me of the general, not the literal health, obviously, of the team, but also the functional, like the spiritual health of the team and the talent level of the team, that they're back to, hey, we can kill you in all sorts of ways. And I don't need Sam Merrill to be a superhero to be competitive on offense, because we can't generate any rim pressure anymore.
Yeah. Well, tonight did bring down the Cavs offensive rating on the season.
I know, it's so cruel. I was mad.
So maybe
I got a bone to pick with the bench mob. We should have had 130.
Yes, we absolutely should have. It's fine though, and
a 10-point quarter. Come on, boys.
How many times have we talked about when you're playing in one of these stretches where it's 5 games in 7 nights, where sometimes how seriously you take the easier games in that stretch are going to determine whether or not you win or lose a future game, right? And I think the Cavs taking care of business, making a statement in this game, having everyone rest in the fourth quarter, it just puts them in a better position to be successful for the Hornets. And we know when you're bouncing around, you're flying around, or whatever the case may be in one of these stretches, there's like that cumulative fatigue, right? Like the easier you make it on yourself, the easier the next game is going to be. And Jared, talked about that post game with Serena as well. He said, we just wanted to make a statement tonight, come in and show that we're getting serious after the break. This is a time where we need to get the ball rolling so we can get into the playoffs on a high note, right? And I thought the Cavs absolutely did that. They put on a show. Did you see James Harden's quote about Jarrett?
Yes, I did. Go and read it to the audience, though.
Via our buddy Mike Lucas, James Harden on Jarrett Allen. I can't lie to y'all. He's way better than I thought he was.
Not better than I thought he was, James. I love that man.
Continue to feed him. I was very, very encouraged on the chemistry with Harden and Mobley as well. I thought that they looked really good. I continue to think that having Harden here, it's just going to continue to test our theories of what this looks like when this team continues to feed the bigs. But I really, really like how equal opportunity offenses look. I'm wildly impressed with James Harden in terms of just how how much effort he's put into fitting in, right?
Yeah.
And
without being a wuss. And I continue to say that really matters.
Standing out while fitting in, right? Like he is excelling while buying into what this team's ethos is, and I think that is really, really impressive. It's just a sign of that maturity, and I'm curious to see as the games get tougher and they have some of these challenges, what it looks like when they get stress test. What does it look like when games come down to the wire against better opponents? Unfortunately, we got some news, or fortunately, depending how you look at it. From my perspective, I'm a little bummed that both Shea and Jalen Williams will be out for that Thunder game on Sunday. So a little bit less of a test, I think, is fair to say.
But the pressure, you got to go win that now.
Oh, yes.
Like, you have to go win that game in OKC. Show that you're serious. Don't take your foot off the pedal. Because, like, brother, we were talking about this before, and I know we're getting near the end of the podcast, but before we went live, we were just talking about like watching that Detroit-New York box score. Detroit ends up winning without Jalen Duren or Beef Stew to put the Cavs in a tie for the 3 seed in the East. And both of us like kind of wish the Knicks won that game because I want to see if they have a shot at chasing down Detroit. But if you're gonna do that, like, you're certainly going to have to beat Detroit in both of the remaining games to get it to 5 back.
Yeah, without a doubt.
And you're going to have to win a lot of games. You're going to have to probably get to 55, 56 wins on the season, which is like going like 20-5 the rest of the way or something like that. I'm not going to do the math live on the pod, but like they're going to have to win at a pretty ridiculous clip and get some help from the Pistons. So you can't be giving away games, and I do think it matters. I do think it matters storming your way to the 1 seed. I already said that this team should be going into the end of the year on a 5-6 game win streak with how much the schedule softens up at the very end. If they're able to dominate the hard part of their schedule, I don't think the 1 seed is dead on arrival.
Yeah, I don't think it's realistic, but I'd like to apply the pressure. I want to make Detroit sweat. I want to make them have to earn it. And you're not going to be able to do that if you drop games that you should be winning. Right?
Yeah, I also just want to leave no doubt for the 2 seed. Because, like, if the 1 seed is a really fun stretch goal to chase, like, I think having home court through the first 2 rounds, and if Detroit holds on to the 1, opening up the chance for them to get upset in the first or second round, and then having home court through the conference finals, that matters.
Yeah.
And I think this team should be super disappointed if they don't end the season as the 2 seed based on where they are, strength of schedule, health of the team, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so, like, you don't blow an opportunity against an OKC team that's wounded.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you land amongst the stars. We will be going live Sunday night, matinee game against OKC. So it won't be post game, but we will be going live later that evening. Big thanks to everyone that tuned in live on YouTube. Oh, you had something to say, Carter?
No. You got it.
Didn't. All right. Big thanks to everyone that tuned in, and big thanks to Carter, as always, for producing. If you're watching live on YouTube, make sure you guys like and subscribe. Click that notification bell so you know when we're going live. If you're listening via podcast and you want to support us, leave us a rating, leave a review, subscribe, unsubscribe, resubscribe, and help cook those books. If you want to be part of Chase Down's exclusive Discord chat, send a screenshot of the review to chasedownpod@gmail.com. However you choose to support us, we really do appreciate it. Make sure you guys are staying safe out there. Until next time, go Cavs.